Fortunately for you, unfortunately for me, I was looking through chapter 42 and I determined some of the points in chapter 42 was a little bit, well, probably might be too big to ignore for reading chapter 51, 55, and so on and so forth. Because there is some foreshadowing stuff, and it'll give people an insight into the game tomorrow hasn't arrived. So this is chapter 42. So I am backtracking a little. So I generally don't talk about chapter 42 in some of the other videos. But we'll come back to chapter. We'll go back to chapter 51 afterward. I was supposed to read chapter 51 after I think chapter 49 or chapter 50, but I came back to chapter 42, and then I'll go back to chapter 55. So chapter 42, 第42章, 吃我阿里啦. So I haven't heard of this company name, but the chapter translates to "Eat My Amway." Amway is a company, and their advertising strategy was so famous that it's still being used in Chinese online literature as a very successful advertising company, which is crazy. Like if you have that breadth, it's like I've just never heard of Amway in the West. Like it seems to be some sort of MLM, but crazy. So let's do this. There's a very nice description of, I think, the sun in chapter 42 as well. The drone hovered in the star-filled night sky with faint blue flames. No, it should be called the sky, because there is no day and night in this world. The huge dark sphere is hanging over the sea. Sume laboriously manipulated her character to put on heavy winter clothes. In fact, Sume had forgotten for a while and ran outside directly. Then she watched her character instantly freeze into a human body in a vacuum. Didn't you even have a hint? Fortunately, Sume has an automatic archive. In fact, if Sume really wanted to say something, it would barely be acceptable to see her character frozen to death like this. But if Ayao died like this, Sume might not be able to help but smash the computer. Although most of the game nowadays, children are inviolatable rules, even if they're thrown down from 100 floors, the adults can die. And the children can still pat the dirt on their buttocks inadvertently and continue to play in the mud. But this is a domestic game, and domestic games generally don't mind this. But at the same time, Sume really hoped that the game maker would be a little intentional and just don't show an Ayao death scene. Then she would definitely go out and angrily change her special praise into a bad protest. To protest. I don't know why. This extremely delicate and real character captured Sume's heart in just over an hour, making her willing to take this girl to find her own in this desolate and cold land some salvation. Although the game didn't specifically say what kind of disease Ayal had, it was just that Ayal looked abnormally weak, and even the basic exercise would seem very difficult. So she always sits in a wheelchair. After Sume put the cold clothes on herself, she helped Ayal put on the cold clothes with nuclear energy batteries inside. Otherwise, the extreme cold exceeding minus 200 degrees Celsius would not be a human being at all. No, it would be all living beings on Earth, a world of death that can't survive. At this time, Sume suddenly wanted to thank the technology developed by mankind. At least I can struggle a little bit in this apocalypse. That existential feeling that death comes for us all. Even then, that's not true. Curing death. The polar crawler slowly lowered its side, which made it easy for Sume to push Ayo down in the wheelchair. This was actually the first time that Sume was truly exposed to the outside world and lost the solid and reliable assistance of the polar crawler. And now I feel my own insignificance. The sky is vast and dark, but in the dark there are more dazzling spots of light flickering above the head. Above head. This is completely incomprehensible from the frog-like vision at the bottom of the well in a polar tracked vehicle. It inexplicably reminded Sume of the day from the sky. After the nest came down, the splendid galaxy that you saw when you looked up in the pitch black Los Angeles city. Of course, it's clear that the scene today is even more magnificent. After all, in today's Earth, the atmosphere is almost non existent. Starlight can fall directly on Earth, lighting up this boundless desert covered with ice and snow. Sume pushed Ayal forward step by step. Every step she felt like walking in a strange world. In front of her was the huge, dead, dark sun. Behind her, the moon reflecting the brilliance of the stars radiated bleak and reddish, the light. In front of us is the endless sea, or what used to be the sea. After all, when the sea freezes, when the never-ending nitrogen snow falls for 10 years, the only difference between sea and the land is that the sea is flatter. And in the distance of the sea, Sume saw a tall bulge, like a reef on the sea, and like a tombstone, standing long in her own field of vision. What's that? Sume couldn't help asking the transportation committee. Sino-Ocean nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the Transportation Committee calmly replied. In the first 10 years after the sun went out, the climate was not so cold yet, and humans fought their last war. There are no victors in this war, or they are all victors, because they have reduced the population they need to support. Sumei closed her mouth. She suddenly regretted asking the Transportation Committee this question. Some things are better not to be known. Sumei could only continue to push Ayao forward until she reached the gentlest place on the beach. She manipulated her character to sit down and looked at the sea in front of her, shoulder to shoulder with Ayao. The Dead Sea hangs in the end of the field of vision. The red moon behind it is just risen. Vision and risen. Is this the sea? Ayao looked at the blue snow-covered ice field over there, shining a dark light among the stars. Sumei didn't know how to answer, and finally the character who controlled her nodded. Dot 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 dot. Luyan sat at home, staring at the computer screen motionlessly, with 2 cans of finished instant coffee behind him. Tomorrow hasn't arrived. It's been on sale for more than 16 hours. Generally speaking, the 24 hours and 144 hours of a game's release of the first week are the 2 key sales nodes. Now, Luyan faces the final sales figures that are tomorrow hasn't arrived. In 16 hours, a total of 17 games were sold, and it only contained 3 good reviews. I've only played for 5 minutes. I feel this is a moving game. I hope you can continue to work hard. Luyan looked at the special praise. Although he said that there's a kind of faint happiness that was encouraged by others, it made people unable to conceal the huge depression in his heart. He never thought that in this world, you can't sell a good game if you make it. The smell of wine is also afraid of the deep valley. But Luyan is more than a deep valley. He simply hid the wine in the cellar and ordered 180 copper nails for the cellar, by the way. As a little-known small company that had been just established for less than a month, and it took out a doomsday game no one has ever made and put it on the Steam platform and marked the unit price of 199 yuan. Yes, Luyan finally chose to increase the price to 199 yuan because Luyan believes that the quality of Tomorrow Hasn't Arrived can fully bear this price compared to the price of about 400 yen for similar foreign works, like AAA titles. That's almost like 40, 50 bucks. In fact, the boss Luyan is still too young. Over the past 16 hours, a total of 17 games have been sold, which is already a figure that can no longer be hit on the street, right? The so-called 3 AAA masterpiece, each company has a different positioning for it, but it will never change. It should be worth A-level game quality, A-level research cost, and A-level publicity scale. These 3 A's are indispensable. And for Luyan, he might be enough to satisfy the first A. After all, research and development cost of the Transportation Committee is infinitely close to zero, and what Luyan paid for is only 1 month's electricity bill, plus his own copywriting and planning food expenses. And if there's such a result, it's not surprising to think about it. After all, the domestic standalone game market has always been in a slump, right? Luyan comforted himself in this way, but his heart was already upset. For this game, he already put all his scholarships. Zhao Junli's $200,000 investment, and his father's 320,000 yuan as a bet. As Luan was said, this is actually a game time to move stones. Longer, but in the end, it may not be able to make a further gamble. Facts prove that this game is done well and may not sell well. Luyan took out his cell phone a bit resignedly, trying to call Zhao Junli. Zhao Junli has enough resources away from home. As long as he sells part of the game's right and interest, he should be able to help the game publicize. This was Luyan's last choice after all. Just as soon as I picked up the phone, I saw Sumei's black head jumping. Quick, quick! Sumei hurriedly urged. Give me your Steam game platform account. If you don't have one, just register one. Although Luyan was in a low state of mind, he couldn't help but see Sumei's spirit, then posted his Steam account. Anyway, he was sitting in front of the computer. After Sumei's second invitation, Luyan agreed. A game gift package instantly smashed over. Luyan opened the gift package. Tomorrow hasn't arrived. A good game for Amway. Super fun. Sumei continued on, Tianxing followed by a big smiling face. Be sure to play. Ask me if you don't understand. People think that's dog food, but I think that's hilarious. So yeah, the one thing I think that makes these stories great sometimes is that um, a lot of these main characters, right? If they didn't have the plot or armor that they are the main characters, a lot of these stories, like I feel like a lot of people when they read, they kind of take certain things for granted. Like when I was reading Tomorrow Hasn't Arrived, no, Superstars of Tomorrow or something. The MCs are always constantly working hard, and it's like, why are these like protagonists and geniuses so motivated to work hard, even in Wuxi and cultivation? It's like, why are they working so hard? They're always so already so powerful, and they have all this stuff. And the answer is, for some of the Traverser Rebirth characters, yeah, maybe not. They're confident because they have that capital. But for those who don't know anything, for those who don't know the risks, it's definitely a different experience, right? people think of main characters one way, which is like, their path is guaranteed. They're on a path set by the author. But for a character in a story, I think it's important for them to not know that future. They can be confident in themselves, but they can never be fully certain that they'll always stay relevant, that they'll always be able to continue to improve. Right? I think that's why there was a dissonance with Superstars of Tomorrow. You have this super powerful character that's constant, that still goes to school. Right? This OP character that goes to school, or a guy like there's been a lot of discontentment with Louis, and it says you got to save the world. You have all this technology, you have this super powerful technology. Why are you not saving the world? And the answer is because these this is like what a normal protagonist is. He doesn't have all this power. He's limited in what he can do, and I think it's so amazing if an author can capture that. There are plenty of amazing authors that can write a whole array and host of different characters, right? The person who wrote "I Shall Seal the Heavens," I think it was like "I Eat Tomatoes," or I don't think it was "I Eat Tomatoes." I think it was someone else. But a lot of people have a special way to write. Like Blue Butterflies, the King's Avatar, Chenju also wrote his character in a very OP, but still not superhuman way. But it was very superhuman in terms of intelligence, not necessarily in terms of action. But I just I think sometimes I think that's an interesting way to read things. So I won't be doing 41 and 43. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure that's skippable. But that I felt like this was a good scene in the video game, and I was a little bit too tired to put the energy to do this. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed chapter 42, and the next one will be chapter 51. So we've got some fun gameplay and future history ahead of you. Oh, and then if you see in the author's comments, um, that's pretty cute as well.